there's so much geschmack. I mean, the parshyos Mishpatim is, in a way, the biggest parsha in the Torah.
Mitzvahs.
Right? We learned in it one of the most incredible Maimonim ever at this Raiva that I have in Shabbos. And there's a whole history about the Mendel Futterfass was in jail in the gulags for 8 years. One of the things he said, that he was a prodigy, was a Talmud of a famous mashpia, Rabbi Yochanan Marsov. He said one day Rabbi Yochanan said, I want to ask you, Mendel, why are you learning Chassidus? You want to learn the Haskalah, the deep logic, or is that what tickles you, or is it the avodah, the service of Hashem? Now he realized, he said, whatever I'm going to say, I'm going to get it over my head. If I say it's for the intellectual exercise, that's why you're learning about Hashem. If you're going to say for avodas Hashem, you hold yourself as an oived. He knew this is Chabad style. He's set up. He's in their trap. Whatever. So he said, for Askola avadenisht. He said, to learn Chassidus for intellectual exercise, for sure, I'm not doing that.
What I'm not doing, you didn't know what
He said he was in one of the cities. Huh?
Shlila?
Shlila, yeah.
Shlila? Oh, man.
When he was an older bocher, and yeshivas were split up here and there, and there couldn't be more than 10 students in a yeshiva in a city, and he was staying in the house of an older chassid. He remembered that a few years before that he had asked at a fabrengen, he asked the Rebbe Rayatz for a bracha that he applied for a visa to Eretz Yisrael to get out of Soviet Russia. He asked for bracha to be in Israel. So the Rebbe said, who says you have to be in Israel? Machdo Eretz Yisrael. So he said, how am I going to make here Eretz Yisrael? So the Rebbe went like this with his hands to his Yechidus room. In other words, after the Fabrengen, you come talk to me, and I'll tell you what you got to do. So a few years later, when the Mendel was in this chassid's house, he said, well, what did the Rebbe tell you at Yechidus? He said, the Rebbe told me at Yechidus I should fast for 3 days. Not 3 days. Yeah, but not. In other words, you eat by night.
Oh, eat by night.
Yeah. And the 3rd day before you break the fast, that's when you should go into the shul and say what's on your heart. This is in communist Russia. So he fasted for 3 days. He said in the 3rd day he got up on the bima, was between Milcha Ma'ariv. He said, Yidden, have rachmanos. You work on Shabbos. If you eat treif, the communists are forcing you. What could you do? You're sending your kids to the treifa schools. They're all going to become apikoros, and no one's going to say Kaddish for you. By the time he finished his last sentence, he was already dragged down for the bima. But it was too late already. People were already excited with what he had to say. Quietly afterwards, people came over to him. He organized a secret cheder. He got a little mikveh going. Wow. He sent from those students later to yeshiva.
What year was this?
This was 1930 something. This Fabrengen was in Peivav, 1926, and then this story happened 1929, 1930. Yeah, a couple of years later when he met him. Yeah, Friedrich Rebbe.
26.
And another thing he said, there was one of the Chassidim that that complained to the Rebbe Rayatz all day. He's busy. He's busy. He was very involved in the activities. He says he's very busy all day. He doesn't get a chance to learn. And by night he's exhausted. He falls asleep. He's nothing with him. Friedrich Rebbe said, "No. So what's with the night?" He falls asleep. Friedrich Rebbe said, "You have to learn Chassidus at night. You learn for a couple of hours, and eventually the tiredness subsides, and then you get a geschmack in the learning." So the Mendel said, "You hear a couple of hours." That means 2 hours you have to learn, and it's bitter. The third hour, because a couple, it's a Loshen Rabbe, Miyut Rabbe Shnayim. The first 2 hours, it'll be bitter because you're tired, exhausted, falling apart. So the first 2 hours is hard. But then it gets easy. It reminded me of an old man I had in the Bronx at the shul. He had his 90th birthday. He had a very strong European accent, and he loved to make jokes. So at the birthday, he said, at the Masiba, he said, Rabbi, they say the first 90 is hard, then it's easy. So the 2 hours when he's exhausted, that's going to be hard. Then it gets easy. Okay. Let's learn a little bit pasuk, and then we'll talk about. I would love to cover 2 sichos, and the time is so short, but just 2 beautiful, beautiful sichos. What's the first mitzvah in this week's parsha? Kisikna avadivri, shesham yam v'shir yetzav l'chov shechina. And all the laws of the slave, specifically, it starts with an eved ivri. And Rashi explains that what's an eved ivri? It's an eved shehu ivri. He's a Jewish slave. How do you get a Jewish slave? So then they go to the next Rashi, third line of the small line. Kisikna v'yad bezdin shemachru b'gnei v'asa, because he stole. And now he's sold as a slave because he couldn't pay for his stealing. He can't be. So they sell him as a slave.
His wife forced him.
Maybe it's talking about he sold himself. No. Because later in Parshas Bhar it says, we already said later in Parshas Bhar is going to say when he sells himself. So it doesn't make sense that the Torah is repeating the same thing twice. Wow. From all the mitzvahs, the whole, the Eila Mishpatim, we're going right from Mount Sinai. We're going to start learning. What's the first mitzvah? About a slave. It's not just that, just like, it's not, it's, okay, you'll say, you know what? We're not starting Erechaim. We're going to start Geshiva Shemesechta. We're going to start Baba Kama. Okay, so start Baba Kama. What does it mean he stole? He was sold because he's stealing. Tell me the laws of stealing, the laws of Bezdin, the laws of the... They'll come later. They all come later. Start, if you want to start Chosh Mishpat, start with Siman Aleph. The story, this is the end. He's a gigamvet. He couldn't pay. They brought him to Bezdin. They sold him as a slave. Now he's a slave. So the din is that he works for 6 years, and then the Shemitah he goes free. If he doesn't want to leave, they make a hole in his ear. Why? Because they say the ear that heard how to Sinai Deibishter said, Libnei Yisrael avodim, they should be my servants. Lo avodim lavodim, they have to be my servants. They have to serve me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He sold himself as a slave. He'll have a hole in his ear, and then he's a slave forever. Forever means 50 years till Yovel.
When would you think Avdus stopped in Israel?
When? I don't know. Eved Knani stopped at the end of the first. Sometime when the Yovel stopped. Whenever the Yovel stopped. But you asked a good question, and there's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, and it's very important. But maybe we could, if we'll have time, we'll get to it soon. This is a strange mitzvah to start with. First of all, why would you start with the mitzvah of slaves in general? Why would this be the first mitzvah you pick? And if you did pick, you say, oh, you know what? We want to start right away with the Yeshiva Shemesechta. We're not going to start with Maseches Brachas, Maseches Tainas. We're going to jump into the deep end. We're going to start with a Ktsois. Okay, so then start with it. Don't tell me. This is the end of the whole story. This is the end. He steals. He has to pay kefil. He doesn't have the money. So that's the first shadow. Why is this? It's a very unlikely pick as the first halacha we're going to learn right after Har Sinai. Number one. Number two. Why is he going to get a hole in his ear? Because he disobeyed what he heard in Mount Sinai. How a person that bows to Avodah Zorah, he should get 2 holes in his ear. Maybe 1 hole in his nose too.
Head.
On the head.
Maybe a hole in the nose to boot. he heard him at Sinai. The Eibishter himself said the first two dibres, Anoichi, Hashem Alekecha, Lo Yelocho Elokim Achedim. And he went and he made a getch, and he bowed to him. No, he's got two holes. Why is it that of all the 613 mitzvahs, this one, he heard the Eibishter said, he disobeyed, and he hole in his ear? What's the pshat? And in general, the whole thing is strange. He's getting punished because he heard. He didn't sell himself as a slave. Bezdin sold him as a slave. He didn't sell himself. He tried to enrich himself. He used the money on drugs, and he used it in Atlantic City on gambling. Bezdin, Mechatz and parsha Bhar. It's not here.
Does it get a hole?
Parshyos, yeah, the same thing. But still, here we're talking about not Mechatz, we're talking about Machru Bezdin. So that's the three questions. Answer. Very simple. First we'll give the simple answer, and then a little more on Avodas Hashem. And then we'll get to a second thing, a moiridik, a second sicha, if we get to it. What's the first thing in Avodas Hashem? The Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya in chapter 41. And as I said, if we have time, we'll learn it inside, and it's a moiridik, a pedic. You guys are holding a pedic 26. It'll take
26.
It'll take you, I know that's a simcha.
Instead of 41.
Benam, the Alter Rebbe writes that a person always must remember Reishis Havoida v'ikra v'shorsha. We know from the Alter Rebbe's brother that he deliberated 6 weeks if he should write Reishis Havoida ikra v'shorsha or Reishis Havoida v'ikra v'shorsha. 6 weeks he was thinking which one to write. We'll soon learn this pedic inside and a few diyukim that the Rebbe has that are moiridik. The bottom line is the Alter Rebbe writes Reishis Havoida, the first thing, ikra, the main thing, shorsha, the source. Why does he have to say 3 words? Many people pull up. But the bottom line is, fellows, this is really important. The first step in Avodas Hashem is what the Alter Rebbe says, is a person accepts the yoke of heaven. A person accepts the yoke of heaven. Even with parshyos, if you don't accept the Kabul Malchus, like the Mechilta says, you have to accept accept me as a king, then you could accept my mitzvahs. Otherwise, what are we talking about? Like the Tzemach Tzedek says, what do you mean? If a person doesn't believe, how does it mean he get a command to believe in God? Obviously, he already believes in God. He believes in God. And this God that he believes in is telling him more details and about this belief in God. And that's why we have to learn this important mimer in Derech Mitzvah Secha called Amonas Alakus, 5 chapters, which explains what is the mitzvah of Anoichi. But before Anoichi, we have to believe in God. Otherwise, what does it mean Anoichi, right? So now, at the time of Matan Torah, the Jews didn't have a choice. There was no B'chira Chofshis to say if they accept God. They saw God with their eyes and their ears, they could hear it. So, no kunz. They saw God. Afterwards, the Matan Torah was over. Now is when it really starts the Avodas Hashem. The bottom line is that it has to be that Bechira Chofshis, that I have the freedom of choice, and I decide to accept Hashem's servitude.
But they had Bechira Chofshis?
By middle of Matan Torah, they didn't have. Before also Kafel Amag, they didn't have. After Matan Torah, starts Bechira Chofshis.
You're saying
The free choice.
Bhar
Is the Kedusha was away. So now the
you said it in the effect that it's coming closer to Hashem.
No. The opposite.
No.
That now God is not revealed on the mountain. So now it starts the avodah of.
Oh.
No, I'm just that the pasuk says they're allowed to walk onto the mountain because the holiness is not present. No. Now they're allowed to walk onto the
Yeah,
mountain.
but the Yam Suf, they believe.
They believed, but now they're not standing right in front of it. And for sure, God is leisa sarponim and God is everywhere. But a person has to accept the yoke of
What's the
heaven.
importance of walking up the mountain?
Oh well, when the presence of Hashem was there, it was forbidden.
Left.
And when the presence of Hashem left, there
What's the importance of
there was no importance. When we'll get there, well, maybe there'll be some pnimius pshat about this, but pshat is that the holiness was there, it was forbidden for them to step onto the mountain. And then the presence of Hashem left, therefore it was permissible to walk there. So after Matan Torah, there wasn't the same thing. So now they have to accept the yoke of heaven. When there was the Eibish's presence was there was no point to accept it, it was there. Now they have to accept the yoke of heaven. Okay. Where do you see a person that the most does not accept the yoke of heaven? We spoke about 2 weeks ago Shabbos, the story of the Chofetz Chaim, right? Chofetz Chaim was traveling somewhere, and he was going with a wagon. So they was traveling between orchards, almost delicious fruits. And the Balagola says, I'm going to go and climb in there. I'm going to take a couple of apples. You look out for me. Tell me if someone's coming. If they're looking, let me know. And so he climbs over the fence, and all of a sudden the Chofetz Chaim starts screaming, "I cooked! I cooked!" So the guy jumps onto the wagon. He starts hitting the horses. He's flying. He looks behind. He doesn't see anyone. He said, "Wer cooked?" He said, "The Rebbeinu Shalom cooked." But the Ganav doesn't understand that. That's what the Gemara says in Baba Kama. The Rabbi Yochanan says in Baba Kama the fine test. What's the difference between a Ganav and a Gazlan? This guy walks in with a gun, and he threatens the teller with a gun, or he doesn't have to pay kefil. A guy with a tiny suit, he makes end meet. He goes quietly, tries to steal by night. He's slapped with a fine. He pays double. Why? So Rabbi Yochanan said, because the Gazlan was, it made no difference, the God's eye or the human eye. He goes in front of everyone and he steals. So he's evil, but that's it. But the Ganev, in front of people, he won't steal. In front of people, he won't steal.
Has humility.
Yeah, in front of people, he won't steal. But in front of God, segeitem nishton. Because it's in other words that God is not looking. So therefore, the Torah was machmer by the Ganev, and he said he has to pay kefil. So therefore, what's the punishment to this person? Mida keneged mida. Mida keneged mida. What's this punishment? He takes away the yoke of heaven. God said, "Oh, my yoke is not on your shoulders? Okay, no problem. Someone else's yoke will be on your shoulders. You'll be sold as a slave. You don't want me as your boss. Okay. They'll take you in a boat to the south, and they'll sell you some plantation over there to some farmer Joe in the south, and that you'll know.
Who's the boss?
You didn't want my yoke on your shoulder. Okay.
So it's because spiritual decline, right?
No, so that's why this is the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah right after, in other words, right after the Eibishter is not revealed on Mar Sinai, we say that a person has to accept the yoke of heaven. And what is the epitome of not accepting the yoke of heaven? A Ganav. A Ganav is that he's scared of other human beings. He's ashamed of other human beings, but he's not scared of God. He's not ashamed of God. So therefore, mida keneged mida. He doesn't accept the yoke of heaven, so he sold him to slavery. However, Torah is a Torah's chesed. Torah is a Torah's chesed, and the whole purpose is only to teach him a lesson, but not chas v'shalom. They should stay a slave. Like Chassidus says, the tachlis hahelem is b'shvil agilui. So we say that eventually he has to go free. Eventually he has to go free. But this Yukul thinks that the concealment is really for the reason of concealment. Like Chassidus says, that the Esther is anoichi haster astir. And the Maggid said, what does it mean haster astir? That God hides himself. But a smart Jew understands that why does God hide? He's playing hide and go seek with us. He wants us to seek him. But that's a smart son understands when his father is not around, it can't be my father disappeared. He's probably playing a game with me. But the stupid son thinks, that's it, my father's not interested in me. That's a silly son. So therefore, that's a noiche haster aster, that the hester is muster. A mature, a smart Jew understands that if there's a hester there, the Eibishter is hiding his face from me. It's not because God doesn't love me. God loves me more than I love myself. God knows what's good for me better than what I know myself, right? It's just that he's hiding his face now. Why is he hiding his face from me? Because he wants that I should look for him. That is a mature son. The immature son says, no, he's not interested. He rejected me. Oh, he rejected me.
The double washing.
Is a noiche haster astir. That's the pshat, the chassidus. The avanoiche haster astir, the biggest. That's Esther min ha'Torah minayim avanoiche haster astir. That the most terrible concealment is when a Jew The concealment is concealed. He doesn't know why there's a concealment. He thinks the concealment is for the purpose of concealment. But that's not true. A healthy Jew knows that he's not in Golus because God hates the Jewish people. God is that angry God that likes to punish the Jewish people. God now dislikes the Jewish people. Or now I have a tzara in my life that the Eibishter really wants to take vengeance on me. Chas v'sholem. A smart Jew, a mature Yid understands that the Eibishter is master himself, so that I should look for him. But it's a game, but what they is the Gilui. But Chas v'sholem, a terrible thing is that a Yid is haster. The concealment is concealed for the Yid. And that's what happens to this person. He's a slave for 6 years. He says, oh, he wants to stay a slave. He doesn't want to go out to freedom. So that's why he gets a hole in the ear. Because Dafka, this is a terrible thing. A Yid, that he wants to stay with this Hester. He was sold into slavery because he didn't accept God's yoke. He didn't want to accept the yoke of heaven. So he's stealing. He doesn't accept the yoke of Hashem. And now he was sold into slavery and he wants to stay in slavery. So this is the most grave of all sins. This comes before Noach Hashem Alekecha. Therefore he gets a hole in his ear. The shaila is why a hole in the ear. The eye is also.
Was the bush and the thing in those days when they saw the hole? That was tough,
yeah. It wasn't a nice neat hole right over here. So you could put in a diamond ring. No.
But it was very often they put in his zahav in the nose.
But this one was in the ear, not in the nose.
Could they make tshuva?
They could also make tshuva. They go out later 50 years. But there's a long road.
Years?
50 years.
Wow.
But usually they're supposed to go out after 6 years. Now this guy wants to stay. So therefore, why does he get a hole in the ear, not in the eye? It says that Cholam Roim is a koilos. Cholam Shoimim Roim, because you can't. Because even though the Jews saw Hashem, they saw a godly revelation, but now that God is not, even though God is present, but the revelation is not present, you can't expect a Jew to see God in every place in the world. But we still expect every Jew to hear about God. Seeing is a much higher level. So now that God is concealed, He's not revealed, so you can't fault a Jew for not seeing Him in every detail in his life. But at least you should hear Him in the Shemea, Meloshin Havana, that you understand. You don't see it, but you know it. And this person doesn't even know it. So therefore his punishment is that he gets a hole in the ear. So what is the lesson to us?
If he accepts this 50-year reign thing, he cannot change his mind?
No.
And say, I don't...
No,
say, I want to be
after
free.
that there's no.
It's 50 years.
50 years.
Contract's already
That's it.
done and over.
Contract done and done?
It's
Yeah.
over, yeah, sure. He put himself in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the whole
No
comes
out.
after the second.
He gets a couple of warnings before this happens. He has to go to Bezdin. Bezdin tries to dissuade him. It's not 1, 2, 3. They try to dissuade him. They try to knock some sense into him.
So the whole is the second stage when he decides to stay on.
Yes.
Okay.
And they bring him to Bezdin, as Rashi says. If they bring him to Bezdin, Bezdin tries to talk to him. But if the guy insists, that's it. Once he has a hole in the ear,
It's done.
that's it. He's done.
It's the highest.
So what is the bottom line? What's the lesson? The lesson is that the first thing when we come out of Matan Torah, Reishis Avoda, Ikra, and Shorsha, is to be an Eved, a servant to the Eibishter, servitude to the Eibishter. And the other thing is that even though 6 weeks sometimes we're in Golus and 6 days we're in the, but we always have to know that the 7th day we're free. When it comes to Shabbos, it comes to Torah mitzvahs, it comes then like the Frierdiker Rebbe said, only our bodies are in Golus. Our souls were never in Golus. So when it comes to the 6 days of the week, a person could be an Eved. When it comes to Shabbos, the things that are Kedusha, Yid is never a servant. Bottom line, why is this the first mitzvah? Because this is the first thing after Matan Torah, to be the Eibishter's servants. And Geneva is the one thing which is the worst spiritual decay. Because a person has Geneva means he doesn't believe. So that's why this is the first mitzvah. First mitzvah is Libnei Yisrael Avodim. That we accept Hashem in the way of servitude.
Was there any such case of someone who says that?
If there was, I don't know.
There really wasn't.
Right.
How does it connect to those lines on the Malach?
What?
How does it connect with the Perek Mamalef here?
Oh, it's now we're going to talk about this. Okay. So first let's read the same thing. No, but I quoted Dafke. Every word that I quoted is very important. That's why I want to read it now. No, every word. Not only Yikra V'Sharsha. Let's read this same story of this week's parsha is repeated in Parshas Bhar, at the end of Parshas Bhar. And there's a few details in this parsha from Bhar about how to treat slaves, and specifically an Eved Ivri and an Eved and an Oma Ivriyo, a Jewish slave or a maidservant. So let's look. I'm sorry, the words are a little scrunched. I could put it into one paper. He could redeem himself if he pays back the money. At least by Yovel he goes out free. Ki li b'nei Yisrael avodim, they are my servants. Avodayim, asher eitzeis yoisem yeretz Mitzrayim, they are my servants. I took them out of Egypt. Ani Hashem alakeichem, lo yisasu lechem alakilim, and don't make for yourself avodah zoros. Okay, so what's the connection with this? They're saying God is upset that when a person sells himself into slavery, because he shouldn't do it. The situation that a Jew is shtori koidim, they are my servants. This is a punishment when someone sold into slavery. But what's the connection now that they're my servants? I took them out of Egypt. They belong to me. What's the connection? Rashi says, look in the left side, 30 lines from the top on the left side. Toras Kohanim says, "Keneged zanimker lagoy shlo yomer hoyel ve'Rebbe megala royes afani kamois." He says, "My Rebbe." We're not talking about the Chassidish Rebbe here. We're not talking about the Rebbe that's dispensing shirayim and some kigel. We're talking about this master. Rebbe means a master, because his Rebbe is a goy. So, and he's megala royes. So therefore, he's also going to be megala royes. My master serves idols. I do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing. Therefore, it says these psukim. To say no, that he can't. That he can't. Let's stop the Rashi because time is short. Rashi continues, and that's why the pasuk later says Shabshai said Tishmoiru. To tell you that he has to, even though his master is a goy, he might think, oh, my master does avodah zarah, I'll do avodah zarah. My master does gilui arayas, I'm also going to do gilui arayas. My master's mechal Shabbos, I'm also going to be mechal Shabbos. Why would you think such a thing? Why would a Jew think? Why would he think? Why? So now, when it comes to Chilul Shabbos, he might think,
Who was our master?
God. So why would he think such a silly thing?
Exactly.
Continual exposure to it.
Oh, so that doesn't mean. But here it sounds like he's saying that he really is allowed to do it. Exactly. A lot of Mefarshim say spiritual decay, or maybe he doesn't get a chance. But that's not what it sounds like. It sounds like he said that the Salkadaitach is, because he's sold now as a slave, he's not part of all the mitzvahs. These three, others say, he doesn't get a chance to do the mitzvahs. And then it's not only these three, and it should be tefillin also. And when it comes to Shabbos, there is a little bit of understanding. He was sold to slavery, so he doesn't own himself. And since he's mechal, already there's a concept in the mechil to hoil chilal no miktas Shabbos, chilal kol Shabbos. He doesn't belong to. He was sold as a slave, so he has to work 7 days a week. He might think that way, right? The same thing on the issue of Gilui Arayas. His master is allowed to buy a maidservant, a shiksa, and he has obligated to sleep with her in order that she would have children that will now belong to the master. So he's treated halfway like a cow. He's not his own person. He's like put into a barn with a woman to create children. So he would think, now all the laws of Gilui Arayas are not applicable. So we say, no, not true, it's still applicable. But the third thing is, he would think that he's allowed to do avodah zarah. Why would he think he's allowed to do avodah zarah? Why, in your master, and the goy is allowed to do avodah zarah? And the guy is allowed to do avodah zarah? And even if the guy was allowed to do, but what's the connection here? So the Rebbe says like this: there is a zoyar which all the Rishonim, the Acharonim, the Emtsoyim, the Balinigde, the Balinister, zoyar that no one understands. Zoyar says, it says v'yotzachino. So he says that the chinam and mitzvahs, that the 6 years that that when a Jew is sold into slavery, those 6 years is part of a mitzvahs. Part of the mitzvahs. How could you say it's part of the mitzvahs? First of all, the Titus Kohanim says clearly that he's not. Indeed, he thinks he is. The Torah tells him he's not. And why would you say such a thing? That he's part of the mitzvahs. Even an Evet Knaini, a goy that sold to slavery to the Jews in the years that there was an Evet Knaini. So they would buy the slave and they would toivel them in the mikveh. They would have to keep certain mitzvahs like a woman. And when they went free, they automatically became Jewish and they were chai with all the mitzvahs. Why would you think that a Jewish man that sold into slavery, why would the Zohar say, what does it mean? What does the Zohar mean? The Zohar also connects it with the union of the 6 years and the 7th year. Like, what is the Zohar saying? The Rebbe says like this. We have to read the Alter Rebbe Tanya Pedek 41, chapter 41. Let's read. Bram tzorich li is lizikon tamid. A person always must remember. Reish so avoida, the first thing in avoida, ve'ikra, the main thing of the avoida, ve'shorsha, the source of all avodas Hashem. What is it? Even though it's true, we said in chapter 4 in Tanya that Yiras Hashem is the source of everything of Sur Merah and Ava for Vasei Toiv. That's true. Because when you love someone, you want to do good things for them. If you love a woman, you want to bring her flowers for Shabbos, and in the morning, if she can't sleep, you want to let her sleep a little later, and you want to surprise her and bring her a box of chocolates or a sandwich or some nuts, whatever it is. Yeah?
Bring her the breakfast in the morning.
You want to do something for her because you really love her. And then because you have respect for someone, if you have a certain Yiras HaKovod, you respect them. So therefore, you want to avoid putting them through pain, telling them that you respect them, they're a very choshev a person. You're going to start telling them Lashon Horas and give them Agmas Nefesh. You don't want it because you respect them, you have Yida for them. So Yida is a shorish for all mitzvot, I say. Because a person is Yiddish Shemayim, he doesn't want to do something which to God is repugnant. And because a person loves God, he wants to connect to God, and he wants to please God, and he wants to do all the 248 mitzvahs. So this is true. However, it's not good enough if a person awakens his love in order to do mitzvahs asay toiv. That's not good enough. Why? What does he have to do? That at least before he starts that, step number 1 is to awaken the natural respect and fear that a Jew has not to rebel against the Eibishter. Shatia bizgalus liber, that he should reveal it. It's there, but he has to reveal it. Bizgalus liber, it should be revealed in the heart. If he can't get it revealed in the heart, at least in the brain. Sometimes you understand something is the right thing. You can't get yourself to do it. Okay, it's time to take a diet now. Another week. The story with the guy that the guy with the chazalach. He wanted to do tshuva, he wanted to bel tshuva, but he said to his wife, we have a few chazalach in the backyard. We'll finish eating them up. We finish eating them up, then we'll do tshuva. In the meantime, they had babies. The guy never did tshuva. So sometimes it's hard to get it in the heart, but the moichel kaponim you could reveal it. Okay. The hainu lizboinen, a person has to be in lizboinen. Okay, I skipped the main richness of the Perek I skipped. We have minutes now. And the Alter Rebbe says about how to think and contemplate in things that will bring out this Yida Tivis And the Yidam Mesuteres that every Jew naturally has, at least it should be revealed in the brain. And if possible, also in the heart. That has to be the motivation behind all 613 mitzvahs. Why? Even though we said that when it comes to the chayas of mitzvahs, the chayas, the joy behind doing, a person can do mitzvahs, we say. Avos Hashem has to be the catalyst for all mitzvahs to say, and Yiddah before Lord to say. We see plenty from the Yiddah, and Ava with Yiddah, they know nothing about the Eibishter. They don't know the first thing about the Eibishter. But that doesn't mean they have chayas in their mitzvahs. It doesn't mean they have chayas. The Baal Shem Tov came and they showed the world that you have to have chayas in every mitzvah. And every one of the loitas say has to be filled with Yiddish Shemayim. So as far as it comes to chayas, the chayas, if a person does something, it can be whatever, a robot, he has to do it. But when is it with chayas? If you love someone and you want to do them a favor, you do it with chayas. If you have yida from someone, and then so whatever you avoid from their agmas nefesh, you do it with chayas because of the yida. But that's only when you're talking about the chayas navodas Hashem. So the chayas is mitzvah asay is ava, and loita says yida. But when it comes to the servitude of Hashem, the pasuk says that the yidden have to be avodayim. They have to be my servants. Oh. So let's go to the continuation of the Perek and Tanya. And the next quote, the last piece on the page. If he's only learning a Mekayim the mitzvah with Ava, because he wants to cleave in the Eibishter, that's not. He's not a servant of the Eibishter. He's not a servant. He's not a servant. The Torah says, "Oisei ta'avoidu va'avadetem." K'mashkosu b'zoya parsha Bhar. Kahai tura the yavin alei oil bekadmisa. That the farmer knows that a calf, as soon as it's born, they put a yoke on its neck. Begin la'afoka minei tavli alma, in order for it to be good. In other words, they're not waiting. A shoyer should be a shar nagach, a shar tam, a shar. In order, if you want, the farmer knows if this is going to be a shoyer that has to be not for slaughter, but it's there for many years to work in the field, it's going to be wild. Why should he want to stand 10 hours a day and plow? So when it's a baby, they already put a yoke on the neck, and it gets trained that it knows that it has to be with a yoke on the neck. So then good could come out of such a cow. Otherwise, a cow is just good for shechting. It's not a good cow. A person is to first accept oil malchus shamayim. If he doesn't have this, kedusha can't rest upon him.
Even though he has.
Avos Hashem, excellent. Okay, every Yid has to have two things. He has to be a servant to the Eibishter, ben. He has to have both. The son, main relationship with the father is through love, and with children we have a main relationship with our children is through love. And an Eved, the main relationship we have with the Eved is Yida. So every Yid has to have Avinu Malkein has to have both. Okay. Okay. But that goes back to the beginning of the Perek Mem Aleph and Tanya, that Reishis Avoda Ve'ikra Ve'shorsha is Kabbalas El Malchus Shemayim. So the Rebbe has a few questions here. First of all, why does the Zohar have to give a whole fancy moshel? The Alter Rebbe brings the moshel. Why is the moshel Moisef and Davon? He's saying that a person has to have Kabbalas El. What's the moshel adding? And we know that from the Alter Rebbe's brother that when he sat for 6 weeks, if he should write, deliberating, if he should write the Ikra Vishorsha, or he should add a Vav, Ikra Vishorsha. Could you imagine? 6 weeks deliberating. So he brought a whole story from Azar, a whole mashal. The Alter Rebbe is not a mashal man. He's not trying to pepper the Tanya with a few cute misholim, so it's very readable. It's a nice kuntras, so people read it. Another story, Aglad Vertel, Zeh Shayna, That's totally not the style of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe brings a mashal from the Zohar. It's critical here. And the Zohar also, it's critical the Zohar to bring. Why? Why is it? What's the Mashal Moisev? And B'chlal, why does the Alter Rebbe have to say? He already said in Perek 4 that the Yid is Shorish L'Sur Merad Avaz V'Asei Tov. Why does he have to repeat it? The Rebbe explains. That not Masbeher. The diuk of Reish, Sikra V'Shosh, not here. Other places we talk about that, but here the shaila is number one. Why does he have to repeat that Yid Sheriff or Surmaz Avas Seitan? Why does he bring the whole marshal? A person could think, why is it really important that the person should have Yida? There's many reasons. One of the reasons we could say is that a person that doesn't have Yida Shemayim, without Yida, the Kedusha can't be shoyda only in something which is bottled, like the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 6 in Tanya. But the Kedusha is only shoyda, that's why it's not Shayach on a Goy, and even Malochim, because the Yidin, Bekoyach, they have Mesiris Nefesh, but Yidin every bottle to the Eivishter. So therefore, by a Jew, there could, because he's so devoted to the servitude, is so strong to Hashem, the Kedusha could rest on a Jew. So you would say that's why the Kedusha of the mitzvah can't rest on a Jew if he doesn't have Yida. But if he has Yida, the Kedusha could rest. So then, as long as he has Yida, it's fine. As long as he has Yida, it's fine. But it doesn't mean that every mitzvah asay has to also be done with the motivation of Yida. It means a person in general has to have Yida. Yida is Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe is trying to say that's not true. When it comes to the chayis of the mitzvah, every mitzvah has to be infused with ava, and every loita say with yida. But when it comes to avodas Hashem, every mitzvah has to be with agdom of yidas Hashem. Why? Why does it have to be kabbalah zal malchus shemayim? So he said, just like the story of the cow, if the calf is not trained with the oil, there's nothing good going to come out of it. And if you want good, not that the oil is not in order it should not be mazik, which is sur meirah. The oil is fasei toiv. In order tavli alma, in order for it to be a good calf, to grow up to be a good animal that's going to do good stuff. He's going to plow the field. Asei toiv. Same thing. Why? Why taka? Why taka? Why taka? What's taka the husband? The Rebbe explains like this. This is the Rebbe's husband. Because what does it mean when a person loves the Eibishter? When a person loves, I love. And the Chassidus always says, Yesh mish'oyev. If you love, that means if a person is totally tzibrochen, it's like a broken person that's not capable to love. A person, in order to be capable of loving, you have to have confidence. You have to be a human being that has self-importance. And now I love. And because I see this is sweet and this is good and I like it and I want it, and I have to have much self-value in order to be capable of loving. Loving is a lot of my metzias is here in love. Therefore, love is great. When we're talking about the chayis in a mitzvah, for a mitzvah say, avos is very important. Because otherwise I'm not in the mitzvah. I'm not in the picture. I'm doing things, my hands are in it, but I'm not in it. But when we're talking about the Hamshoch of Kedusha, the Gilui, of Oid Ein Soif, the Eibush himself, how can it be that through the Ava of a human being, my Ava, this is me, I'm finite, and through me, finite, will come a Gilui of Oid Ein Soif, which is infinite? Impossible. Only if Reishis Avoid of Ikra V'Shoshet, that the motivation before the Ava, why do I have Ava? Because I have Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shemayim. So then it's not about me, it's about accepting God's yoke. That's infinite, because the motivation before the Ava is because it's Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shemayim, not because my name is Aristotle or Plato, I'm a Groisa Chochem, and I decided that love God is the right thing. No, I'm a Jew. And because I'm a Jew, the first mitzvah, parshyos Mishpatim, is Kisikna Evet, to be a servant to the Eibishter. Servitude. So therefore I have Kabbalah so much. Therefore I drag myself to Beis Menachem Mendel, and I learn Torah, Oid, and Tanya, until finally I start having a little bit of Avos Hashem. So, but what schlepped me into the Tanya Shir, or the Torah, Oid Shir, or the Lekuti sicha Shir? Because I'm a Jew, and therefore I have Kabbalah so Malchus Shemayim. So the first step is not my mitzvah, it's not me. It's accepting the yoke of heaven. So therefore, when this is the motivation, that's a reishis avodah. Even though later I come to have love, I must love Hashem. And that has to be the chayis in the mitzvah. But before I started to love Hashem, the reishis avoda was accepting the yoke of heaven. So therefore, it's not about me. It's about the Eibish's yoke. So therefore, I am limited, but the Eibish is not limited. So therefore, through my mitzvahs, I can be mamshech oirein soif.
Like Shema, first the Shema first.
That's like the Gemara says, before Kabbalah Zel, then now we understand, that's why that's a reishis avodah for all avodas Hashem. But even mitzvahs say, the chayas of the mitzvah say has to be ava, mitzvahs loitas has to be yira. But the motivation of accepting Hashem's servitude, oisei tavoidu, we're not the chayas of the mitzvah, the avodas Hashem, the first step has to be Kabbalah Zel Malchus Shamayim.
How do you sense of equal?
That's that says this diuk, and here in the sicha it doesn't answer it. Here he's answering the diuk. Why he has to bring the mashal of the shoyer, and why he have to emphasize that even though Av is the mocker for mitzvah say and the yid of loita say, still, in other words, you shouldn't make a mistake. As long as the person has a yid, it's good genug. No. There is Av and Yida, that's the highest of the mitzvah, but then before that has to be the Kabbalah Shel Malch Shemaim before everything.
Yes, Ha'onish is not enough.
Huh?
Yes, Ha'onish is not enough.
He didn't go in here, but it has to be Kabbalah Shel. If the Kabbalah Shel for the Oynish is good enough, that he didn't go into this here. But obviously, if you learn the Pedic, you understand that no, yes, Oynish is not enough. But this is not what is the point that we just read. Now it goes back.
Would not give you
Will not give you Kabbalah Zohar. It's not real. It's not real Kabbalah Zohar. Yeah. Now we understand the Zohar, and now we understand the Torah's Kohen. When the Zohar, because the Zohar says that he's potter, it doesn't mean he's potter from the mitzvahs, but the mitzvahs has to be with the motivation of Kabbalah Zohar. How can he have Kabbalah Zohar Malchus Shamayim when he has the Eibush to put him under? He has the oil of another boss on top of him.
Good.
He has a legit. The Torah says that it's legitimate boss. He has a boss over him. And we find that when Uriah Achiti came to David the Melech, David killed him. Why did David kill him? Who gave the right to David to kill him? He wasn't punished for killing him. He was punished because the story with Bathsheba, but he wasn't punished for killing Uriah. He had the right to kill Uriah, but why? So the Gemara says because he said Adoni Yoyev, whatever v'chol bnei Yisrael choynim bnei Asada, and he called in front of David HaMelech, he called the general Adoni. So that was a moeded b'malchus. It was true. Yoyev was the general. In front of a king, you don't call the general my master, because when you're in front of the king, there's the fear of the king should be so powerful that all of a sudden there is no other fear. Like the Mendel Futterfast said, the story that in one of the towns there was those before communism, there was a statue of the Chavez, there was a statue of the Tsar, and there was a soldier that was guarding the statue, and it was a bitter cold night, and he almost froze to death, and they rushed him to the hospital, and they revived him, and the soldier thought he's going to get a Medal of Honor. He stood there, almost death. So the commanding officer came and gave him a slap in the face. He said, you almost froze to death? The fact that you have the honor to guard the king's statue should have warmed up your blood so much that you should never have gotten to that situation. so the Vedel said, this is a teacher gets a lesson avodas Hashem. So this in front of the king, you shouldn't say Adoni Yoyev. This Jew, unfortunately, does have a master on top of him. So his accepting the yoke of heaven is not pure because he has another yoke. He has the yoke of a balabayas. So because the Reish is avoid the Vikar V'Shosh of all 613 mitzvahs according to the Zohar, is what? Accepting the yoke of heaven. And this guy cannot accept purely the yoke of heaven. He has a yoke of an owner. That's why the Eibush is so upset. Kli b'nei Yisrael avodim v'lo avodim la'avodim. But that's the fact. He was sold as a punishment because Nimker b'gnei v'osai, because so therefore he's lacking the reishis avoid the vikar v'shosha. So therefore he's in a sense potter from all the mitzvahs. He's pot because he can't do it. He can't do all the 600 with the right motivation. Now we understand also.
But Avodah Zorah and
why would we think that he's because my Rebbe is doing Avodah Zorah, I can do Avodah Zorah? So the Rebbe says Poshet. The goy is not allowed to do avodah zarah. He has to believe in God, but he's allowed to believe in shituf. He's allowed to believe that there's one God, but also but also the moon helps and the sun helps and the angels help and this one helps and that one helps. Jew is chos v'shalom. A Jew believes that everything is the
You
Eibishter.
think that everything has a patron saint.
And the Yid is not allowed to believe that. Now, we would think, because now the Torah said that he doesn't provide for himself. Who provides for him? His master provides for him. So because his master is a goy, so he would say, not chas shom avodah zarah, but because his Rebbe is allowed to believe in shituf, that he doesn't get it directly from the Eibishter's hand. It looks like he's getting it from the goy's hand, who's his master. So he might think that a chas v'sholem is allowed to do avodah zarah. That's why the Torah's Kohanim says, no, he's not allowed to do avodah zarah.
So if he went with the Rambam, he wouldn't have any problem.
Okay.
When you go to Israeli Army, the first 3 months, what they teach you? Kabbalah Sar.
Kabbalah Zarah.
After you start learning, they don't teach you to shul
Okay.
to this. First you have to learn Kabbalah Sar.
After parshyos Yisrei, first thing mishpotim is Kabbalah Sal Malach Shemayim. Reish Tzavoid and Ikra
You are
V'Shorosh.
nothing. First thing you should know you are nothing. Now you can start. No, it comes